The alarm blared through the colony of New Seoul as people rushed to the evacuation ships. Red lights flashed on every street corner. Children cried, holding their parents' hands tightly. The year was 2450, and humanity faced its greatest threat. Commander Hana Kim stood on the bridge of her ship, the Defender, watching screens that showed thousands of people boarding transport vessels. Her face showed no emotion, but her hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. "How much time do we have?" she asked. Officer Sung Park looked up from his console, sweat on his forehead. "The Void-born fleet will reach us in 3 hours. We need to get everyone off planet before then." Hana nodded. The Void-born had appeared from nowhere 2 years ago. They were beings made of dark energy who fed on technology. They moved like a plague across human space, destroying everything in their path. 11 colonies had already fallen. "Send another squadron to guard the evacuation zone," Hana ordered, "and tell all ships to prepare for emergency jumps." Outside, the sky darkened as massive ships descended through the atmosphere. The colony's defense towers fired constantly, bright beams shooting upward. But for every Void-born ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. In her office at the colony's main government building, Governor Jin Lee made the final call to Earth. Her normally neat appearance was disheveled, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "We're evacuating as ordered," she reported. "But we're losing too many colonies too quickly. The outer planets can't hold much longer." The face on the screen belonged to General Hyun Kang, head of the United Earth Alliance. His expression was grim. "The Security Council has made a decision. We're pulling back everything to Sol system." Jin's eyes widened. "Everything? All 37 colonies?" "Yes. This is no longer about holding territory. It's about survival." The words hung heavy in the air. Humanity had spent centuries expanding into the stars, building homes on distant worlds. Now they would abandon it all. Back on the Defender, Hana received the new orders with shock. A complete retreat. She had expected to defend some key colonies, maybe form a smaller defensive perimeter, but to give up everything? "Send the message to all captains," she said finally. "New priority, get everyone back to Sol. Nothing else matters now." The evacuation grew more urgent. People were allowed only 1 bag each. Homes, businesses, farms, everything else would be left behind. Some refused to leave, choosing to stay and fight instead. Hana couldn't force them, but she knew they had no chance alone. Young pilot Dae Choi flew shuttle after shuttle of people to the waiting transport ships. On his 6th trip, he found an old man sitting calmly in a garden. "Sir, you need to evacuate now," Dae said urgently. The man smiled. "I planted these trees when we first settled here. 50 years ago. I won't leave them." "Please," Dae begged. "The Void-born will be here soon." "Then go, young man. Save those who want saving." With a heavy heart, Dae returned to his shuttle. There were too many others waiting to be rescued. In orbit, the situation grew desperate. The Void-born advanced faster than expected, their strange ships absorbing energy weapons and continuing forward. They seemed drawn to humanity's technology, especially the jump gates that connected the colonies. "We can't hold them much longer," Officer Park shouted as another human ship exploded nearby. Hana made a difficult choice. "Prepare to collapse the jump gate after the last transport goes through." "But Commander, there are still 3 ships that won't make it in time." "If we don't collapse it, the Void-born will follow us straight to Earth." Her voice was steady, but her heart ached. "Make sure those ships know they need to use their emergency jump drives to get to the nearest friendly colony. From there, they can take the long way home." The minutes ticked by. Transport ships pushed through the jump gate one after another. Behind them, the defense fleet fought a losing battle. When the last scheduled transport went through, Hana gave the order. "Collapse the gate." Special bombs detonated around the massive ring structure. The swirling blue energy of the gate flickered and died as the structure broke apart. The Defender and the remaining ships engaged their emergency drives, jumping away just as the Void-born reached the debris field. A week later, Hana stood before the Earth Security Council. Through the windows, she could see defense platforms being built in orbit. Earth was preparing for war. "We've lost the stars," General Kang said. "Now we must make sure we don't lose Earth too." Hana thought of all the people left behind, of colonies built over generations, now abandoned. Humanity had retreated from the galaxy they once thought they would rule. And somehow she knew nothing would ever be the same again. 10 years after the Great Retreat, Professor Jun Lee stood before the massive window in his laboratory on Luna Base. Earth hung in the blackness, blue and beautiful, but his eyes were fixed on the stars beyond, stars that humanity might soon never see again. "Are you certain this will work?" asked Director Min Park, who had come to witness the final test. Jun nodded slowly. "The shroud technology is ready. Small-scale tests confirm it can create a dimensional barrier around an object. We've successfully hidden asteroids from all known detection methods, but never anything as large as an entire solar system," Min pointed out. The two walked to the central platform where a holographic display showed the complete solar system: Earth, Mars, now heavily fortified, the asteroid belt, converted to shipyards, Jupiter's moons, research stations, all the way to Pluto, where early warning systems watched for the voidborn. In the decades since humanity retreated from the stars, they had transformed their home system into a fortress. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had a purpose in the grand defense plan. But all military experts agreed. If the voidborn found them, even these defenses would eventually fall. "The World Council votes tomorrow," Min said. "They need to know exactly what will happen if we activate the shroud." June pressed a button, and the hologram changed to show waves of energy surrounding the entire system. When activated, the shroud will create a bubble of altered spacetime. From outside, our solar system will simply disappear. No light, no radio signals, nothing will escape or enter. We will be completely isolated from the galaxy. "And there's no coming back? No way to deactivate it later?" Jun hesitated. "No, the dimensional shift is permanent." The next day, June stood nervously before the World Council. 500 representatives from Earth and the colonies that had escaped the Voidborn filled the Great Hall in New Geneva. Council leader Sun Ho asked the question everyone wanted answered. "If we activate the shroud, what happens to us inside? Will we still see the stars?" "No," June replied honestly. "The stars will vanish from our sky. Instead, we'll see the dimensional boundary, probably as a soft glow across the night sky. Our astronomers will no longer be able to observe the galaxy. We will be alone." The room erupted in voices. Some shouted that humanity belonged among the stars. Others argued that survival was worth any price. After hours of debate, the vote was called. The result: 289 in favor, 201 against. The shroud would be activated. 3 days later, Jun sat in the main control center on Luna. Thousands of shroud generators had been positioned throughout the solar system. Each one had been carefully tested. Now it was time. "Generators at 100% power," reported Technician Su-Yoon. "Ready on your command." Jun looked at the small screen showing a live feed from Earth. His wife and daughter stood in their backyard, looking up at the night sky. His daughter pointed at a constellation, Orion, her favorite. Soon she would never see it again. He took a deep breath. "Activate the shroud." Across the solar system, the generators hummed to life. Energy waves rippled outward, merging together, strengthening each other. The barriers between dimensions thinned, bent, and finally opened. On Earth, people watched, in awe as the stars began to fade. One by one, then in groups, the familiar patterns disappeared. The moon took on a strange, pearly glow. Finally, the last star winked out, replaced by a soft, shifting curtain of light that encircled the sky. In that moment, humanity became truly isolated. For the first time since they gained consciousness on the African plains millions of years, ego-humans could not see the stars that had guided them through history. Reports came in from around the system. The shroud was stable. All monitoring stations showed the same thing. From the perspective of the galaxy, the solar system had vanished. That night, June returned home to Earth. His daughter was still in the backyard, staring up at the strange new sky. "Is this forever, Daddy?" she asked. "Yes," he said softly, putting his arm around her. "But we're safe now." "What about all the other people out there? Our friends from other worlds?" Jun had no answer. The Ardani, the Malorian traders, the scholars of Proxima Centauri, all allies they had made during humanity's brief time among the stars, were now unreachable. As they stood there under the glowing sky, a shooting star appeared, the first and last they would ever see inside the shroud. A tear escaped from Jun's eye as he realized what it was. The final light from outside. A photon that had been traveling for years, just making it through as the barrier closed. Humanity had left, the stars behind, and there was no going back. In the vast, dark expanse of space, a lone research vessel drifted silently. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the bridge, her weathered hands gripping the control panel. Something was different today. The ship's sensors were picking up strange vibrations that seemed to pulse through the metal hull. Nearby, Dr. Michael Chen adjusted his glasses, studying the mysterious energy readings. The instruments flickered with an otherworldly rhythm, unlike anything they had ever encountered before. The crew watched in tense silence, their breath catching in their throats. Suddenly, a thin line of blue light appeared outside the ship's main viewport. It was barely visible at first, just a tiny crack in the darkness, but it began to grow, stretching like a wound in the fabric of space itself. The line expanded, twisting and curling with an almost living quality. Elena's second-in-command, Sarah Williams, called out the readings. The energy levels were climbing exponentially. Something was emerging from the strange spatial tear, something that didn't follow any known laws of physics. A shape began to take form. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't organic. It was something in between, a swirling mass of light and shadow that seemed to breathe and pulse with its own intelligence. The crew stood frozen, their scientific training battling with pure, primal fear. Dr. Chen's hands moved quickly across his console, recording every millisecond of the phenomenon. His scientific mind raced to understand what was happening, but nothing in his years of research could explain this. The entity, if it could be called that, started to communicate. Not with words, but with waves of pure information that crashed against the ship's communication systems. Complex mathematical equations, glimpses of distant star systems, and fragments of knowledge beyond human comprehension flooded their screens. Elena realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just a random space anomaly. This was a conscious being trying to make contact. Her training had prepared her for first contact scenarios, but nothing could have readied her for this moment. The blue light began to stabilize, forming intricate patterns that seemed to dance across the ship's external sensors. Each pattern was a message, a complex language of light and energy that hinted at knowledge far beyond human understanding. Sarah noticed something strange. The ship's systems were changing. Computers that had been running standard protocols were now adapting, almost learning from the incoming signals. It was as if the entity was rewriting their technology from the inside. Dr. Chen's voice broke the silence. "It's communicating through quantum entanglement," he said, his voice a mix of excitement and terror. "It's not just sending information, it's rebuilding our understanding of communication itself." The entity's presence grew stronger. Crew members reported feeling strange sensations, memories that weren't their own, glimpses of worlds they had never seen, knowledge flooding their minds faster than they could process. Elena made a critical decision. They couldn't remain passive. She instructed her team to prepare a response, using the mathematical patterns the entity had already shared. It was a risky move, but their curiosity was stronger than their fear. As their response transmission began, the blue light pulsed with what almost seemed like excitement. The spatial tear started to stabilize, transforming from a chaotic wound in space to something more structured and deliberate. Minutes felt like hours. The crew watched, holding their collective breath. What would happen next? Were they about to make the most significant discovery in human history? Or were they about to be consumed by something beyond their comprehension? The entity's response came not as a sound or a visual signal, but as a pure wave of understanding. In that moment, they realized they were not alone in the universe. Something was out there, watching, waiting, and willing to communicate. As quickly as it had appeared, the blue light began to recede, but everything had changed. The crew knew that nothing would ever be the same again. They had touched something profound, something that existed between the known and the unknown. The research vessel continued its journey, carrying with it a secret that would change humanity's understanding of existence forever. Back on Earth, no one believed the crew's incredible story. Government officials labeled their report as science fiction, and most scientific communities dismissed their claims as space madness. The research vessel was quarantined, its crew kept under strict observation. Mark Roberts, a junior investigative journalist, heard whispers about the strange mission. Something didn't feel right. He knew there was more to the story than official, reports suggested. Late one night, he received an anonymous encrypted message with coordinates to a remote research facility. The facility looked abandoned from the outside. Rusted fences and overgrown grass surrounded the complex. Mark's heart raced as he carefully approached the main building. Something felt different here. A strange electrical charge hung in the air, making the hair on his neck stand up. Inside, he discovered scattered documents and strange equipment. Computer screens flickered with unusual symbols, not like any language he had ever seen. Mathematical equations covered the walls, drawn in what looked like dried blue ink that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at it. Suddenly, a sound caught his attention. Footsteps, but these weren't normal human footsteps. They seemed to skip and bounce almost like something was jumping between dimensions. Mark hid behind a large metal cabinet holding his breath. Dr. Elena Rodriguez emerged from a side room, but she looked different. Her movements were fluid, almost too smooth. Her eyes reflected a strange blue light that seemed to pulse from within. This wasn't the same woman from the space mission. Something had changed her. She walked to a complex machine in the center of the room. Her hands moved with precision, touching buttons and switches that seemed to respond to her touch before she even made contact. The machine hummed with an energy that felt alive. Mark watched in silent amazement. The machine began to generate a holographic display of star systems, galaxies, and spatial formations that no human technology could possibly map. The blue light from earlier, the one from their space encounter, started to reconstruct itself around the machine. A voice spoke, not through speakers but directly into Mark's mind. It wasn't human language, but a pure transmission of thought and understanding. The message was clear. Something had returned with the crew, something that was now part of them. Dr. Rodriguez turned, looking directly at Mark's hiding spot, but her gaze wasn't threatening. It was curious, almost inviting. "We are different now," she said, her voice carrying multiple tones simultaneously. "We bring a message." The room started to change. Walls seemed to breathe and shift, revealing complex geometric patterns that hurt Mark's eyes if he tried to focus on them directly. The blue light grew stronger, connecting the machine, Dr. Rodriguez, and the surrounding environment. Mark realized he was witnessing something beyond scientific explanation. This wasn't an alien invasion. This was a transformation. The entity they had encountered in space wasn't trying to destroy humanity. It was trying to communicate, to share something profound. Suddenly, other crew members appeared. Sarah Williams, Dr. Michael Chen. They all moved with the same fluid, otherworldly grace. Their bodies seemed to shimmer as if they were only partially existing in human reality. "We have been changed," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "Not conquered, transformed. The universe wants to communicate, and we are now its messengers." Mark's journalistic instincts battled with pure human fear. He wanted to run, to tell someone, to expose this incredible discovery. But something in the blue light held him in place, compelling him to listen and understand. The machine generated more images, glimpses of distant worlds, complex civilizations, and mathematical concepts that seemed to breathe with life. Mark understood that what he was seeing was just a fraction of a much larger cosmic conversation. As dawn approached, the blue light began to fade. Dr. Rodriguez and her crew looked at Mark, knowing he would be the bridge between their new understanding and the rest of humanity. They had returned changed, carrying a message from the depths of space. The facility would soon be empty again, but the transformation had begun. Humanity was about to receive its first true message from the universe, whether it was ready or not. The world started changing slowly. Most people didn't notice at first, but something was different. The transformed crew, those touched by the blue light, began appearing in strategic locations around the planet. Dr. Rodriguez appeared in Geneva at the United Nations headquarters. Her presence was calm but powerful. Scientists and diplomats found themselves listening to her strange warnings about cosmic balance and interconnected systems. Her words carried a weight that seemed to bypass normal human reasoning. Michael Chen took position in Beijing's primary research center. His modified body could process complex scientific data in seconds. Quantum physics problems that had stumped researchers for decades suddenly found unexpected solutions. The scientific community watched in confused amazement. Sarah Williams managed to infiltrate NASA's most secure communication systems, not through hacking, but through a mysterious quantum connection that allowed her to transmit and receive information faster than any known technology. Space monitoring stations began picking up signals from regions previously considered empty. The transformed humans weren't trying to take control. They were preparing something. Their actions suggested they were building a planetary defense system against a threat humans couldn't yet understand. Strange energy readings started appearing worldwide. Satellites detected unusual electromagnetic patterns forming complex geometric shapes around major cities. These patterns seemed to pulse with an intelligent rhythm, creating invisible protective shields. Mark Roberts, the journalist who had discovered their secret, became an unexpected ally. He understood their mission better than most. Through carefully placed articles and controlled information leaks, he helped prepare humanity for the coming revelation. Governments began noticing the unusual activities. Military intelligence agencies tracked the transformed crew's movements but couldn't interfere. Something about their presence made traditional confrontation impossible. They moved between human systems like water, impossible to capture or contain. The blue light from the original space encounter started manifesting in unexpected places. Research laboratories, communication networks, and even natural environments showed signs of transformation. Plants grew differently. Animals behaved with increased intelligence. The entire planetary ecosystem seemed to be slowly adjusting. Children, born during this period, showed remarkable differences. They understood complex concepts faster. Their brains processed information using neural pathways that seemed more connected, more fluid. Something was evolving. Dr. Rodriguez explained to selected world leaders that Earth was being prepared. A larger threat exists, she would say. We are not conquering, we are protecting. The cosmic entity that had transformed them was using human bodies as interfaces, as bridges between different dimensional realities. They were becoming guardians, not invaders. Their mission was preservation, not destruction. Mysterious technological improvements started happening globally. Energy systems became more efficient. Communication networks grew more intelligent. Transportation systems began developing adaptive technologies that seemed to predict and prevent problems before they occurred. Mark documented everything. His recording showed how the transformed crew moved between human systems, subtly adjusting and improving planetary infrastructure. They weren't destroying human systems. They were enhancing them. Military systems worldwide detected something approaching from deep space. Not a threat, but a complex energy signature that suggested a massive cosmic event was coming. The transformed crew seemed to be the only ones prepared to understand and manage this potential encounter. Dr. Chen explained it as a planetary immune response. Earth was developing its own sophisticated defense mechanism against potential cosmic threats. The blue light was teaching humanity how to survive in a much larger, more complex, universal ecosystem. As months passed, people started noticing the changes. Communication became easier. Scientific breakthroughs happened more frequently. Environmental systems began healing themselves. Something profound was happening, guided by the transformed crew. The Guardians moved silently, their human forms now, just vessels for a much larger intelligence. They watched, prepared, and protected. Humanity was being prepared for something bigger than anyone could imagine. The galaxy was watching, and Earth was finally ready to listen.